All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle a really provocative question that comes from a fascinating article in Marketing Turkey. And the question is this: is the entire field of public relations, as we know it, about to just disappear? The argument here is that PR is basically a relic of the industrial age, and we're going to unpack exactly why.
So to kind of set the stage here, let's start with this quote from Rumi. It just perfectly nails our theme today, this idea of profound, unstoppable change, and the need to let go of old ways of thinking. Because according to our source, the communications world is on the very edge of exactly that kind of shift.
And there it is, a stark, simple statement. Not that PR is just changing or evolving, but that it's actually heading for extinction. So what's driving this? Is this just hype, or is there a really powerful force at play here that's making the old rules of communication totally obsolete? To get it, we've got to go back in time.
Okay, so to understand why PR is in such a crisis mode, we first have to get our heads around these huge societal shifts that have shaped all of human history. The author breaks them down into 4 great waves of change, and each one completely overturned the one before it.
So let's do a super quick flyby of history here. The first wave was primitive hunter-gatherer society. Then, bam, the second wave hits, the agricultural revolution, bringing us surplus and feudalism. The third wave, that was the Industrial Revolution and the birth of capitalism. And now, we're living deep in the fourth wave, the Information Society. But here's the absolute key takeaway from this slide. Each wave didn't just add to the last one. It completely disrupted and replaced it. Remember that pattern. It's crucial.
All right, now let's zoom in on that third wave, the industrial society. Why? Because this is the world where public relations was literally born and raised. It was the absolute perfect storm of conditions for a new kind of communication to take over.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. You know, in those earlier feudal societies, control was all about force, but capitalism, that needed a totally different tool. You can't force people to buy your product or believe in your brand. You had to convince them. You had to persuade them. And boom, right there, in that need for persuasion, that's where the entire industry of marketing communication, PR included, was born.
Okay, so if PR is a tool that was perfectly designed for the third wave, what happens when the fourth wave, this crazy information society, comes crashing into it? Well, the old tools, they just start to shatter. Let's look at how this is happening right now, in real time.
I mean, think about it like this. When was the last time you bought a physical city map before taking a trip, or hauled a giant encyclopedia off the shelf to look something up? GPS and search engines didn't just improve on them, they made them completely obsolete. And folks, that is disruption in a nutshell. The argument is the very same thing is happening right now to the core tools of PR. Just look at the classic PR playbook, right? Writing a great press release, an AI can spit out 5 options in what, seconds? Carefully building media lists? Data platforms like Fossiles can target thousands of journalists instantly and track every single open. Even the core stuff like managing events or connecting powerful people, that's all being automated by tech and social networks. The old toolkit is basically becoming a museum piece.
And this is where the source gets a little cynical, but man, it's a powerful point. In today's media world, what's left of that old-school influence isn't always earned through skillful public relations. A lot of the time, it's just bought and paid for with ad money. The author calls it paid relations, basically a transaction that's just pretending to be a relationship.
This whole disruption thing is happening inside companies too. That old, almost feudal way of looking at employees as human resources, like interchangeable cogs in a machine, that is a pure third wave idea. The fourth wave demands we see people as invaluable assets. The source uses the Turkish word kıymet, which means value or worth, to really hammer home this deeper, more human-centered view.
So what's the point? The point is, the industry is at a major crossroads, and like the old saying goes, you can't ride 2 horses at once. You can't cling to the old third-wave models with one hand while pretending to be part of the new fourth-wave reality with the other. A choice has to be made, period.
So if the old way is totally broken, what's the path forward? Well, it's not about finding some new trick or a shiny new tool. It's about climbing a ladder of understanding, a journey from just raw data all the way up to something much bigger, wisdom.
Let's break this down. Data, that's just raw numbers, right? Information is when you organize it into something useful. Knowledge is when you interpret that info and start seeing patterns. Now the third wave, it stopped right there, at knowledge. But the fourth wave, it demands this huge leap to the final step, wisdom. That's where you apply real human insight and empathy.
It's not just knowing that a crisis is blowing up on social media, it's understanding the cultural anxiety behind why it's blowing up and then crafting a response that shows you actually get it. That is the part the machines, they just can't do.
And to make that leap into wisdom, you need a whole new core skill. The source calls it business creativity. And listen, this isn't about being artsy or painting something. As it's defined here, it's the ability to come up with truly original ideas that create real value. It's not about making a prettier ad. It's about fundamentally rethinking how a company communicates its purpose to solve a real human problem.
Now look, some things never change. The fundamental formula for persuasion is still pretty simple. You make a promise and you build trust that you're going to deliver on it. But here's the twist. In the fourth wave, where everyone has a megaphone and access to all the information, building genuine trust is 1,000 times harder. You can't fake it anymore. It requires that higher level of wisdom and total authenticity.
Okay, so this brings us to the end game, and it's not some slow, gradual evolution, The source is basically saying it's a stark, urgent choice for every single person working in communications.
So here they are, the two paths. Path 1. You can keep doing things the old way, using the third wave playbook, and risk becoming the next encyclopedia, a total victim of disruption. Or, Path 2. You embrace the chaos, you reinvent the entire practice of communication for this new reality, and you align yourself with the spirit of the times. Let's be clear, standing still is the same as choosing to become obsolete.
So what does this future actually look like? Well, it's not a department called PR anymore. No way. It's a flexible, living, breathing ecosystem. It's one that intelligently mashes up the raw power of AI with the deep smarts of social sciences, the emotional connection of art, and that engine of business creativity. It's all about breaking down the old silos, not building them back up.
And so we end with this question, which is really the whole point of this entire piece. If the old structures are really crumbling and we are entering an age of wisdom, the question for all of us isn't just, how do I survive? It's, what will I choose to build? It's a huge challenge, for sure, but it's also a massive opportunity. The choice, as they say, is yours. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.